Hi, I'm Greg Niemeyer. I'm a professor for new media. I teach in art practice, and one of my favorite courses to teach is American Cultures, because in that course I feel like I best realize my hope to teach about citizenship. What does it take to be a citizen of an online community, and what does it mean to be a citizen of a world that is digitally connected and that has more IP addresses than it has boundaries. An important concept in this particular course is that we allow students to introduce changes into the structure itself of the teaching as well. So because again of the transparency of all the information being in front of us at the same time, we can say, well, would you like to learn about one unit before you do another? And we can sort of rearrange the book as we go, and that's a new flexibility we can use as well. It's something we all participate in and contribute to. And by the way in which we contribute to it and participate in it, we can see how we want it, we can define how we want it to work. And in my course, I'm trying to help restore agency in cyberculture, help restore the feeling that it is the way it is because of what we like and what we don't like, and what we're concerned of and what our hopes are. Ultimately, cyberculture is made by the people, for the people. If nobody shows up for Facebook, Facebook doesn't exist. And so we only have ourselves to blame when we see certain things happening. And for example, when we see our privacy rights crushed, or we have concern about our identity being secure, our credit cards being secure, these are all questions that arise when we engage with the medium, and we make these choices as we to take those risks when we enter the space of the medium. The medium is always something between you and me. It's always something that comes in between. That means it introduces additional complexities and introduces additional risks, but it also introduces some additional comforts and affordances. And so we have to as we participate in these media, we have to constantly think about whether the balance of affordances and risks is fair for us and fair for the people we engage with. The mission of American Culture is to understand the history of civil rights in America and the history of diverse populations getting along. But I'd like to expand that mission and ask what kind of innovation helps. What kind of innovation helps with continuing civil rights, with improving conditions for all participants in a community, and for also improving the fate of a community in a face of changing environmental situations. So to that end, we have an online course now which is organized in missions, and in each mission students need to go to their original communities, home communities, and explore if a certain concept works or doesn't work in their communities. So for example, a big component of new media is energy. How much energy does it take to run a computer? And actually it turns out it takes a lot. So I ask my students, well, where does the energy come from, and where do you find energy in your community that's being wasted? And so they go out and use a video camera, much like the one we're looking at right now, to make a video, say, to document 1 minute of wasted energy in their communities. So then they load this up to the website, and the website becomes a mirror of reality. It's not reality itself, it's not another reality, it's just a mirror of the lived reality of these students. And they then comment on each other's wasted energy examples, and like that they learn to discuss their physical, real communities in an online framework that is constructive. And so hopefully they learn from each other in the online context and see things that they don't see about their own communities, much like in a mirror, and about the communities of others. And then when they see those things that they like or don't like, the things they don't like, they can go back to their communities and try and change them. And the course continues in that vein with 20 more missions, 20 more missions where people observe their environments closely and ask hard questions of their environments and come back with innovative answers. At the very end of the course, students are asked to produce apps that are benefiting an organization or a group of people within their communities. And those apps are usually just prototypes, but they are prototypes that help us say, what if there was an app like this? And you can try it out, and it may not be fully functional, but it gives you an idea of what it might be doing. One of those apps that we developed in a course was one about college readiness. College readiness is a challenge for people whose parents aren't necessarily committed to sending their children to school, to higher education school. And so high school students often are on their own when it comes to figuring out how to get into a college. And there's maybe financial constraints, there may be cultural constraints, there may be identity constraints. And the group of students thought, well, maybe with two groups of students actually developed apps to help address this college readiness issue. And the Office of the President noticed this and asked us to conduct a hackathon to develop these ideas more. And so out of a sketch for an app came a hackathon where a group of people started working on more advanced versions of these apps. And out of the hackathon came a course which was sort of a spin-off of American Cultures, in which students focused for one semester solely on developing this app and making it work. And so now we have an app called Picture Yourself in College, where people can take a picture of themselves and then decorate themselves with various UC Berkeley type hats and jackets and posters and books and whatever, to illustrate what their life in college might look like, their future life in college might look like. Turns out this formation of a positive self-image about a future self in college is a very powerful tool for identification with a goal. And so that app is now going to go public, and is going to hopefully help students who wouldn't normally make it into college for various reasons actually make that step after all. And so we hope that it'll get people over the threshold and into this community. The really big obstacle is, do I think of myself as somebody who's allowed to change the world and innovate with technology or not? And most of us come to, say, a vending machine or a car, and we struggle with it as it is. But actually, in many cases, we also ask, well, what if we did it like this? What if we did it like that? And validating that feeling of, I think this could work better some other way. Validating that fundamental innovative response is something we can do in a course like this, and it's something that's very necessary in order to make innovation a more broadly accessible idea. And it's not just innovation in the sense of like, oh, I figured out a better way to lock my door at night, but it's innovation in, I figured out a solution for myself, and I think I can scale it because it might be beneficial for everybody else too. So there again comes the concept of what works for me individually, to how does it work for me as a member of a community and for the community as a whole? Can my individual advantage be scaled into a collective advantage or not? And these are questions we learn to ask in this course, and they provide the basis for innovation that is socially beneficial.